Welcome back to Narrations. Thanksgiving, the holiday of family, food, and gratitude. A time to gather, to laugh, and to argue, maybe all in the same hour. But in this story, Thanksgiving means something more, a test of loyalty, love, and patience in a divided world. It's about a family coming together, and falling apart, under the weight of fear and politics. This is The Oath, 2018. A dark Thanksgiving comedy that asks one simple question: what are you willing to fight for when everything you believe is on the line? It begins in the near future, or maybe just a slightly exaggerated version of today. The news blares constantly, every channel shouting, every headline political. America is split in half, not by geography but by belief. A new government initiative, called the Patriot's Oath, requires citizens to sign a loyalty pledge to the president. It's supposed to be voluntary, but everyone knows it isn't really. The deadline to sign is Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. And that's where we meet Chris, a liberal political junkie who can't stop watching the news. His house is warm and cozy, but filled with tension. The oath has become the only thing anyone talks about, and Chris can't let it go. His wife, Kai, is the calm to his storm, patient, kind, and trying desperately to keep their Thanksgiving from becoming a battlefield. She knows how these dinners go: family gathers, someone mentions politics, and the cranberry sauce becomes collateral damage. Chris loves his family, but he's exhausted, angry at the world, angry at what's happening to the country, angry at anyone who doesn't seem angry enough. He's the kind of person who argues not to win, but because silence feels like surrender. As Thanksgiving approaches, Chris and Kai prepare the house. The turkey is in the oven. The wine is chilling. And soon, the guests arrive: Chris's conservative parents, his apolitical sister Alice, her quiet husband Clark, and his younger brother Pat, a diehard supporter of the oath. Pat also brings a new girlfriend, Abby, who has the innocent enthusiasm of someone who doesn't yet know what kind of family she's walked into. From the moment they walk through the door, you can feel it: the polite smiles, the careful small talk, the fragile peace that everyone is trying to hold. Dinner starts well enough. They talk about work, football, the weather. But like an uninvited guest, the oath keeps slipping into the conversation. A joke here. A comment there. Then, like all forbidden topics, it breaks loose completely. Pat proudly says he's already signed the oath. He believes it's a good thing. A way to show loyalty, to unite the country. Chris explodes. He calls it fascism, a betrayal of everything America stands for. The table erupts. Voices rise, everyone talking over each other, Kai pleading for calm while Chris and Pat trade barbs. Their mother tries to smooth things over with pumpkin pie, but no one's hungry anymore. Chris storms off, furious. Kai follows, trying to soothe him. She reminds him that they're family, not enemies. But he can't let it go. He's scared, not just of what's happening in the world, but of how normal it's starting to feel. That night, the argument lingers in the air like smoke. No one sleeps well. The TV glows silently in the corner, replaying the same headlines about protests, arrests, and political chaos. The next morning, Thanksgiving Day, everything feels slightly off. Chris wakes early, cooking to calm his nerves. The smell of turkey fills the house. Kai tells him to relax, to enjoy the day, to let people talk without jumping in. He promises he'll try. He won't start anything. But then his parents arrive again, and so do the opinions. The conversation swings between friendly and fiery. One minute they're laughing about childhood memories, the next they're arguing about freedom, the government, what it means to be patriotic. The tension keeps building, like pressure in a pot that's about to boil over. Chris's father reminds him that sometimes you just have to play along to keep the peace. Chris fires back that silence isn't peace, it's complicity. His voice trembles, not with anger but fear. He's watching a world he doesn't recognize, and the people he loves most seem fine with it. Dinner is served, but no one's really eating. Every bite tastes like restraint. Abby, the girlfriend, tries to lighten the mood with small talk about recipes. Clark compliments the stuffing. Kai keeps smiling tightly, praying for normal conversation. But it's no use. The words, the oath, keep finding their way back into the air. Finally, Chris's brother snaps. You think you're better than everyone, Pat yells. You live in your little bubble and think everyone who disagrees is evil. Chris shouts back. And you think loyalty means obedience. It's chaos. Plates rattle, voices echo. Years of unspoken frustration spill out, not just politics, but jealousy, old wounds, and the kind of bitterness that only families can bury for decades. Kai tries to intervene, but it's too late. The argument becomes a storm. And then, a knock at the door. Everyone freezes. Two men stand outside dressed in black, with badges that read compliance enforcement. They're government agents, part of a new division tasked with ensuring citizens follow the oath protocol. Their names are Mason and Peters. They say they're just checking on reports of non-compliance. The family exchanges nervous glances. Chris goes pale. His father tries to play it cool, insisting it's a mistake. But the agents are calm, polite, smiling in that unnerving way that makes kindness feel like control. They ask to come inside. Kai hesitates, but Chris, his heart pounding, opens the door. The agents step in, quiet, professional, scanning the house as though they already know. Mason, the taller one, looks around the table and says softly, "Beautiful dinner. Hope we're not interrupting." Chris tries to stay composed, offering them coffee. But every word feels like walking a tightrope. The agents ask simple questions: who lives here, who's signed, who hasn't? No one answers right away. Pat jumps in quickly, saying he's signed. Chris doesn't. The air thickens. Then, a small thing tips the balance, a comment, half joking, half true. Chris mutters something under his breath about fascism. Mason hears it. The smile fades. The questions become sharper. Kai sees it happening. She steps in, smooth, calm, charming, offering pie, laughing lightly. She's trying to protect Chris, to protect everyone. But the tension doesn't break. It deepens. By nightfall, Thanksgiving at the Bailey house has turned from awkward to terrifying. Because now, it's not just a family argument. It's survival. Thanksgiving night has fallen, and the house that once smelled of turkey and cinnamon now feels like a cage. The laughter has stopped. The lights are dim. And two government agents sit quietly in the living room, Mason and Peters, while a nervous family pretends that everything is fine. Chris can barely breathe. Every instinct tells him to speak out, to argue, to fight, but one wrong word could destroy everything. Kai keeps glancing at him, her eyes pleading for calm. His parents sit frozen, trying to smile through fear. The clock ticks loudly, marking every second that feels like an hour. Mason walks slowly through the room, looking at family photos, childhood pictures, wedding smiles, Thanksgiving dinners from better years. He says softly, almost kindly, "You've built a good life here." It's not a compliment. It's a warning. Peter stays quiet, his hand never far from the holster on his belt. He watches Chris like a hawk, studying his every move. They ask again about the oath. Who has signed it? Who hasn't? Everyone hesitates. Finally, Chris's father says they all have. It's a lie, but a desperate one. Mason's smile tightens. You know lying to federal officers carries consequences, right? Kai steps forward, calm but trembling. She offers more coffee, more pie, anything to buy time. The air is thick with fear, but for a brief second, Mason relaxes, taking a sip of coffee, complimenting the flavor. He's pretending to be polite. Everyone knows it. Then something unexpected happens. Peter spots the television remote blinking. Chris had paused the news earlier, mid-rant, a commentator shouting about resistance and rebellion. Peters presses play. The sound of protests fills the room. The agents exchange a glance. Mason turns back to Chris and says, "You're one of them, aren't you? The ones who think you're better than your country." Chris swallows hard. "I love my country," he says quietly. "That's why I won't be bullied into signing something that means nothing." The room freezes. Mason sighs, disappointed but almost sympathetic. That's the problem with people like you, he says softly. You think freedom means saying no. Chris can't help it. His anger spills over. Freedom is saying no! Before Kai can stop him, the moment snaps. Mason slams him against the wall. Peters grabs Kai, holding her back. The room explodes into chaos, yelling, struggling, furniture breaking. Chris fights back, adrenaline overriding fear. He grabs the nearest object, a candlestick, and swings. Mason falls. Peters draws his weapon, but Kai tackles him, screaming for him to stop. The gun goes off. Silence. Mason groans on the floor, blood on his forehead but alive. Peters, shaken, lowers his weapon. The family is huddled together, terrified and gasping. For a moment, no one moves. Then, from outside, headlights sweep across the windows. Another car pulls into the driveway. Back up. Panic sets in. Chris looks at Kai. We have to hide. They drag Mason and Peters into the dining room, tie them with extension cords, and shut off the lights. The front door rattles, more agents calling out. Kai steps forward, whispering for everyone to stay quiet. Her calm is unshakable, even now. The agents outside knock harder. Then, finally, they leave. The sound of the car fading down the road is like a miracle. The family stands frozen in the dark, hearts pounding. Chris leans against the wall, shaking. The turkey has gone cold. The pies sit untouched. Thanksgiving has turned into something unrecognizable. Kai kneels beside Mason, checking his pulse. He's still breathing. She looks up at Chris, her face a mix of anger and heartbreak. What now? She whispers. Chris doesn't know. He's gone too far. The fear, the politics, the anger, all of it has consumed him. He looks at his wife, his family, and realizes what he's become. He walks into the kitchen, sits down at the table, and stares at the flickering candlelight. For the first time, he's silent. The world outside is louder than ever, but inside, it's quiet, heavy, broken. Then Mason coughs, groaning as he sits up. Peters, still shaken, helps him. They exchange a look, something unspoken passing between them. Mason turns to Chris. We didn't come here to arrest you, he says weakly. We came to check a lead. That's all. Chris doesn't believe him. He can't. But then Mason adds something that surprises him. You think you're the only one who's scared? We're scared too. It's a small truth, but it changes the air. For a long moment, no one says a word. Then Mason nods toward the front door. We'll say it was a misunderstanding. They untie the cords, step outside into the cold night, and disappear into the darkness. Kai sinks into a chair, trembling. Chris walks over, sits beside her, and takes her hand. The adrenaline drains out, leaving only exhaustion. The family is safe, for now, but the scars will linger. Morning comes. The sun rises over a house that feels both haunted and somehow new. The TV is silent. The coffee is cold. Outside, neighbors go about their lives like nothing happened. Chris looks around, the broken dishes, the scattered food, the mess of a night that started as Thanksgiving dinner and turned into survival. He finally understands what Kai had been trying to tell him all along, that family isn't about agreement. It's about endurance. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. He turns off the news. The silence feels good. Kai smiles faintly, relief in her eyes. You ready to eat? She asks. He laughs softly. Yeah. I think I'm starving. They sit at the table, surrounded by the wreckage of a Thanksgiving that went completely wrong, and yet, in some strange way, completely right. The arguments, the fear, the anger, all of it peeled away something raw and true. Because in the end, the oath isn't about politics. It's about people. It's about how easily fear can divide us, and how much harder it is to forgive, to listen, to love. As the camera fades out, the world outside is still uncertain. The noise hasn't stopped. But inside that little house, there's peace, fragile, imperfect, but real. And that's the oath, 2018, A Thanksgiving story that reminds us that gratitude doesn't mean agreement, and that sometimes, the greatest act of courage is not shouting louder, but sitting quietly beside the people we love, even when we don't understand them. If you enjoyed this narration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Narrations, where stories remind us that family, even at its messiest, is still worth fighting for.